Welcome to Areya, another podcast from Areya, the leadership cell, where a space where leadership isn't taught, it's lived. In Areya, we believe leadership begins when you choose courage over comfort, purpose over popularity, and impact over titles. Especially for women who continue to redefine strength, resilience, and authenticity, this is your space where your voice, your movement is heard and is acknowledged. Areya is a beacon of empowerment, inspiring young minds to rise, to lead, and create change that lasts beyond applause, celebrating empathy, innovation, and the power of women who lift others as they rise. Today, we are truly honored to host a visionary who beautifully blends science, innovation, and leadership. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Damla Khan, a neuroscientist, an entrepreneur, an education reformer whose journey spans across some of the world's most prestigious, institutions from University of Glasgow to Imperial College of London. With a PhD in stem cell and regenerative medicine and an MBA from Imperial College, Dr. Damla has not only contributed to groundbreaking research but has also championed the cause of meaningful education through her ventures. The ventures, Brainsteins and Tynker Bytes, both dedicated to reimagining how young minds learn and lead. An award winning entrepreneur, STEM ambassador, and a member of Imperial College Business School's Alumni Advisory Council, she continues to inspire the next generation of innovators and change makers. We are delighted to have her with us and to share her journey and her insights and a vision for the future of leadership science education. Welcome, Dr. Damla.
Thank you so much, Professor, for that kind introduction.
Yeah. So, Damla, since you are doing so much, we would like to hear a few words about you.
Absolutely. Well, I think you covered it very nicely, but it's been a bit of a long journey for myself, but currently very much focusing on the next generation, looking at empowering young minds, helping them to achieve their full potential. And we're very lucky to be in an age where technology is allowing children to do things that we could only imagine when we were younger. So I'm very excited for the future, and I'm hoping that with the work through Brainsteins and Tynker Byte, I'm able to support even a small fraction of that future.
Okay, very nice to hear that. Business, two very, very different ecosystems. Yeah. So, how do you think leadership differs across these spaces? Number one, and what common traits do you think great leaders share in these two ecosystems?
Those are both great questions. And I believe that science teaches you humility before complexity, while business teaches you decisiveness and uncertainty. And with great leadership, that's born when you have curiosity that meets courage. Let me explain that in a bit more detail. So, in science, you learn that the world is far more complex than any single model or theory. And every experiment reminds you that your assumptions can be wrong. And that's not failure, that's progress. So science teaches you patience, precision, and a deep respect for the unknown. So it builds humility before complexity, the understanding that learning never really ends. Business, on the other hand, demands what I would say is action in real time. So you rarely have perfect data, but you're making decisions that affect people, affects markets, affects futures. So it teaches decisiveness amid uncertainty and the ability to move forward with confidence, even when the answers aren't exactly complete. And so I've come to believe that great leadership happens where those two worlds actually meet, where they collide, where that curiosity meets courage. So with curiosity, you keep listening, you keep exploring, and you keep questioning assumptions. And that courage helps you to act on what you've learned, to make very bold decisions and to stand by your principles. So across both science and business, the best leaders I've actually seen have a very common DNA. There's this clarity of purpose, this empathy for people, and this discipline to keep learning. And whether you're leading a lab or a classroom or a company, doesn't really matter. Leadership is ultimately about creating trust, sparking curiosity, and helping others actually to see before it very much becomes a reality.
Wow, such wonderful, and so such amazing, you have told us about the how leadership is, like common in the both ecosystems. So leadership, in fact, has nothing to do what a ecosystem is all about. It is about your personal traits and how you can lead the, team. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Now, the next question that is coming to you is about how do you often emphasize innovation as the heart of education? What does innovative learning truly mean to you in practice?
So for me, innovation in education isn't, about adding more technology. It's actually about removing limits. So real innovation actually happens when, students stop memorizing answers, which we've all done, growing up. That's been the norm, and it's really more about starting to design solutions. So when education shifts from that consumption of knowledge to creating it, that's where that real innovation happens. So in practice, what that means is um, classrooms look more like studios or labs, spaces where mistakes aren't punished, they're analyzed, where I come back again to that curiosity, but it becomes the curriculum. And learning isn't about getting it right, but getting it real. And you very much learn this during a PhD journey because you're constantly getting it wrong in terms of, experiment after experiment fails. But it's that learning journey and about understanding the path. So we've got a lot of tools nowadays and a lot of discussion about things like generative AI, Chat GPT, and they have completely changed the landscape. But when used well, AI can be an incredible learning partner. Not to do the thinking for students, of course, but to push them to think better. So it can spark ideas, challenge assumptions, and open doors to knowledge that used to take, weeks to find. But the real opportunity, it's not just access, it's empowerment. So when students use AI to explore, create, question, it develops the very skills they'll need to thrive in the future. We're talking about being future ready and having future ready skills. So what is that? It's critical thinking, it's creativity, it's problem solving. And actually that's why I'm working on Tinker Byte, a platform that's designed to help aspiring teens harness this power. So we're using AI and interactive learning to help people move beyond traditional education and to think like innovators, to prototype ideas, to learn from failure, and really build with purpose. So the goal isn't to make students, dependent on AI or on technology. It's to teach them how to collaborate with it. It's to use tools like ChatGPT to amplify thinking, not replacing it. But if we get this right, we're not just teaching the next generation how to, pass exams and have rote learning. We're teaching them how to change the world and doing it much earlier and in a much more impactful way than we could have ever have imagined. And we'll create a generation of, fearless, ethical, imaginative thinkers that's ready to build what's next.
Oh, that's so wonderful to know. Absolutely, AI is of course the next future now, but of
Yeah.
course you're very well said that we have to, like collaborate human knowledge, empathy, creativity along with the AI tools. I mean, it's not a replacement that the students should understand. They have to have something which is a USP of humans, which an AI cannot replace, but it can be used as a compatible tool to get ready for the future. Absolutely correct. Thank you. Now, the third question that comes to you is, as a woman leading in fields often dominated by men, what personal leadership principles have guided you through challenges and transitions?
Well, I think I learned quite early on. There's this confidence in it's not about being the loudest voice in a room. It's about being the clearest one. And I think that was something really, really important to learn early on. And when you're often one of the few women in the room, it can be really tempting to think you need to speak more, speak louder, really be heard. But I think over time, and you're constantly learning when you're in these environments. So this is just my thought process at this moment, reflecting on the journey to date. I've realized that true confidence is quiet. It's that steadiness that comes from knowing who you are, you stand for. And so my leadership, I would say, is really being shaped by three guiding principles. So the first one is integrity, and that integrity before influence. So you can't lead others if you betray your own values. And influence built on compromise that never lasts. So I've learned that clarity of character is far more powerful than a clever strategy. And when people trust your integrity, they'll follow you even through uncertainty. The second, I would say, is purpose, and it's purpose over perfection. So leadership is very messy. We all know that. We constantly see it, and those of us privileged enough to be in positions of leadership have experienced it. There's no clean script whatsoever, and I used to think that I have to have every answer or deliver everything flawlessly. But I guess again, I've learned that people don't need to be perfect leaders. They need to be honest ones. You need to be honest with yourself and with the others that you are leading. So purpose gives you the courage to act even when things aren't tidy and to make progress rather than to chase that polish, that final beautifully sculpted item. And then I think the third thing is probably connection, connection over control. So again, early on, I thought leadership, and it's interesting what you learn thinking what leadership is, vis-a-vis what it actually transpires to be when you're experiencing different environments and ecosystems. So I thought leadership meant having again all the answers, as I've already said, and now I know it means creating space for others to bring theirs. So, people don't follow titles, they follow trust. And when you lead through that connection, you're building teams that don't just execute, they care, they create, they stay, they're really, really impactful. And every challenge I've faced, every transition, every setback has been an invitation to very much lead more authentically and to show that you can be strong and still be kind. And I think you can lead with both authority and empathy. That grace and grit can exist in that very same sentence. And I guess that's for me, that's the essence of leadership, bringing both strength and grace into the room and letting them work together.
Yeah, so very beautifully put. Strong and be, like kind too. This is what is leadership all about. Yeah, absolutely. And how we can have our own place by having confidence and by showing that we are something different from others, showing with our capabilities, our, strengths. I mean, of being a good leader. Obviously, Damla, you very correctly said that leadership is very, very situational. We can't just, identify it in few words, few traits, or few behaviors. It is like sometimes you have to act like a very strong leader and not listen to your followers. At the other time, you have to be very, very kind and listen to them and then take the decision accordingly. So, of course, we cannot put them in few words, but yes, there are certain words which really define, leadership. So very, very nicely put, strong and kind, which is very difficult to have, like this combination is very difficult to have in humans. Yeah, because like when you becomes very strong and there's a tendency of people becoming more, authoritarian, So that thing has to be stopped. Where to stop and where to start with the kindness is something very, very interesting. Thank you so much for a wonderful answer. So we have another question too. So how important do you think emotional intelligence is in leadership, especially for women striving to create impact?
Um, well, I've always said emotional intelligence, that's not a soft skill. It's actually a superpower. And that
Yeah,
makes every
very
other
true.
skill work.
Yeah,
So you again, coming back to strategy, you can have the best strategy, you can have the sharpest, data, strong technical expertise. That's fantastic. But if you can't connect with people, if you can't inspire them, if you can't help them feel valued, none of it really lands. And emotional intelligence, that EQ as they call it, is what translates that intelligence into impact. So emotional intelligence is something that will really help you read the room. But more importantly, it helps you change the room. That allows you to sense what's not being said, to recognize when, for example, morale is dropping, or when someone's holding back a great idea because, they don't feel safe enough to speak up. But you see this a lot with, junior folks in your teams or your organizations. They often have brilliant ideas, but they're very, very nervous to speak up. So great leaders don't just analyze data, they actually notice that energy. And for women, especially, I think emotional intelligence becomes this kind of internal compass, but we often have to walk this the fine line, right? Again, coming back to this. So you're being strong, yet sensitive. You're being assertive but approachable. It's juggling those two things. And emotional intelligence helps us to find that balance without losing ourselves. And it helps us to lead both with the head and with the heart, and to be really firm on purpose, but flexible in approach. So I've seen the power of this in action. I once worked in a team that was, technically brilliant, but they were deeply divided after a very tough project. So no amount of planning or metrics could fix that culture. What did actually help was, taking the time to listen, not just to the problem, to the people behind them. So once people felt heard, that creativity came back almost overnight. So observing this and kind of, you don't see it in the moment, you don't see it in real time, you reflect back on this. That was a really big learning moment for me, learning from another leader and seeing how they handle such a thing. So I think emotional intelligence is critical, but that's really the essence of emotionally intelligent leadership. So it turns a workplace into a community, and again transforms that performance into purpose. And it's what turns success into significance. Because remember, people are not going to remember the targets that you are going to hit as much as how you made them feel along the way. And that is far more
absolutely.
important. So I
Absolutely.
really believe in the future, emotional intelligence is not going to be seen as a nice to have. I think it's going to definitely be the defining edge of every great leader.
Yeah. Very well put. Very well put, Damla. Of course, how beautifully you connected emotional intelligence to the connect of being strong and being empathetic. Like absolutely wonderfully put. Um, Emotional intelligence, of course, is the key point which makes one leader different from another. Like how he can connect with humans, how they can remain connected and understand how you have taken care of them, and then that is the point where they will remember or not remember you. Yeah. So emotionally having a connect with your team members and your followers is absolutely required. Thank you so much for this wonderful answer. And now, finally, the last question: what is your message to the next generation of young women who dream of leading not just the teams but the companies and also the change outside?
Well, okay, so I think if I could if I could leave one message for young women, or actually really for anyone who's dreaming of leading any type of change, it would probably be One, it's don't wait to be invited to the table. We're always talking about that table. Don't wait to be invited. And I can't remember who said it, but they did say, build your own. And it's very true. You should be building your own table. And when you do pull up those extra chairs, I think that was very nicely said, because sometimes opportunities are there and you can make the most of it, but sometimes you have to create those opportunities. And I know it's challenging, and particularly when you're at the beginning of your career to even fathom any of this, you're like, yeah, it's easy to say when you've done a lot under your belt. But I say this with hindsight and where I am at this particular stage in my life. But lead before you feel ready. Speak even when you're scared, when your voice is shaky. Because again, it comes back to this courage. It doesn't wait for confidence. It really grows through action. So if you're defining success on your own terms, not by titles that you're collecting, but really by that impact that you create. So the world does not need perfect leaders. We don't have perfect leaders. And it's difficult to imagine anyone who is a perfect leader in any single domain. It really, but especially given the current situation of the world, I think it needs a lot more braver ones, brave leaders. So people who are really willing to stand up for something, to start something, to believe in something bigger than themselves. If you look around, you'll see a lot of people who are managers. How many of them are actually leaders? How many leaders do you come across in your life? What are the things that make them leaders and make you feel that they are leaders and have those leadership qualities? So again, leadership, it's I would say it's not a position, it's actually a posture. And that real change doesn't begin with power. It actually begins with presence, with one person daring to imagine a better way and having the courage to take that first imperfect step. Because that's how, every movement, every breakthrough, every revolution, that's how it begins. And that's what we should aspire to. And remember, it's not with permission, but it's actually very much with a purpose. So I hope that those are some words of encouragement to the next generation, definitely of young women, but of young people in general. And I hope that we see that in the next 10, 15, 20 years, it's going to be a better world than it is today.
Very nicely said. I think my girls would be really inspired by your words now, and you're very nicely put in a very, precise manner as to what they should think, how they can become good leaders by seeing what others are doing, and probably you very rightly put that they have to come out themselves, take the lead, and not underestimate them. Should come out with whatever capabilities they have. They can do something in life. That kind of feeling in their minds can definitely, and very right. I mean, very nicely you put that nobody's perfect. They can. I mean, every leader cannot be perfect. So we don't have to see that if we are a leader, we have to be fully perfectly doing the work. So this is a very nice way to handle the imperfections in humans. All the humans, we have imperfections in us. So thank you so much, Damla. Such a wonderful interaction we had, and like the words of wisdom, the words of insightfulness. Whatever you said was so very insightful, so very full of empowerment, and the strong strength. The words you were saying are carrying them with them. It's like it's so very amazing. I'm sure my students must have got a lot of wisdom today. So on behalf of the leadership cell, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to you for sharing your valuable and so very. I mean, it's like amazing the way you connected everything. With the leadership traits to emotional quotient, to how you have to be strong, to how you have to come forward even we think you're not capable. It's like wonderful, and it was very insightful, and how we can have resilience, and how we can build our strengths as women. And leadership is not like very connected to only men and women. It's something which is common to all. So thinking about how we can survive in the world of men, I don't think it's a question also to be asked. But since we are having a girls college, we always try to find out ways and means by which women can become more strong and lead their way in this in this world where uh, I would say that men do lead a little more than the women. Yeah, so that is why we ask these questions. But according to me, like we are nowhere less than them. So like we can always be at the front with our. In fact, we have more of sensitivity, more of empathy, more of understanding of more of kindness and understanding of what others think, which makes us a little more different. Like so. I think that was wonderful, and then we can also dare to lead the way they can dare to lead. So that your journey and your wisdom truly really remind us about that leadership is not about titles. It is about how you create purpose and how you create empathy amongst our team members. So and last of all, to our listeners, if today's conversation has inspired you, you can follow Areya for more such engaging and empowering sessions with global leaders and the ones who redefine the meaning of leadership and who are already leading the world. So, because at Areya, we think that leadership is not just discussed, it is experienced by the experiences of the various global leaders. Thank you so much.